This is Pat Salber with Health Innovation TV, and this is really fun. We have Thomas Goetz, who I think everybody knows was at Wired Magazine, but most people probably don't know that he's now an entrepreneur in residence at Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And I'm going to turn this over to you, Thomas, and have you tell us, what's that all about?
Well, pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be talking with you. I am, so for 11 and a half years, it was awesome at Wired and really had a rare perch to observe where the world was going. And personally, I spent a lot of time covering and working in healthcare and looking at how medicine and healthcare and technology were coming together and creating new opportunities. And basically, the long and short of it was, I started to realize in the last couple of years that the pace of change as a journalist, it was difficult for me to respond to something that was in my head but hadn't happened yet. So I, as a journalist, I had to wait for something to have, for somebody else to have had an idea that I might have already had in order to go and do anything about it.
So this is an entrepreneur in the making, is what I hear.
I guess that was, but it took me a while to figure it out, right? I was like, what do I do with these ideas? And so basically, I was able to, fortunately, to leave Wired and take a gander at going out into the wild myself and testing these ideas in the marketplace, not just of readers, but of dollars and cents. And as a nice kind of interregnum, I was afforded the opportunity to work with RWJF as their entrepreneur in residence, their first entrepreneur in residence. I had to explain what that title meant to some of the people there, because it's a world that it's a term, it's a position that comes from, in my experience, from Silicon Valley. Venture capital firms tend to have entrepreneurs in residence who basically consult on portfolios and spend some time trying to hook up new projects and bring some new thinking and agency to organizations. So that's pretty much what I'm trying to do with RWJ is get a sense for some of the amazing projects they're doing, the amazing grants that they're doing as the fourth largest foundation in the United States. And then to do a couple projects that might kind of reflect my own curiosities and interests, and hopefully will result in some tangible products that are not kind of the things that ordinarily RWJ might have done, but will still be incredibly valuable both for the foundation, but also for the world of healthcare and the industry at large.
Oh, it sounds like a really fascinating transition. And what's going through my head as I'm listening to you say this, two things. One, I just have to throw in that you must have been an English major, because most people don't say interregnum. I didn't even say it right. And I won't ask you what that meant. And then the second thing that's going through my head is, I wonder what kind of business you're going to start and when we're going to see it.
Well, I won't talk about the business. I will talk about my honors thesis, though, in undergraduate, if you want. But no, I mean, I have a couple ideas, and one of the and we'll see if they amount to anything. But one of the fun things about working with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation is they have this incredible role with in the academic world, but also just all these people in the world of nonprofits, and healthcare is a world where it is largely nonprofit, largely academic, and so to have a kind of slightly more commercial, slightly more I wouldn't say corporate, but a more for-profit frame of mind. The idea that, okay, somewhere in here there might be a bottom line that we could extract and start making some money. Obviously, there are any number of thriving and robust healthcare companies, but it was nice for me to fuse that part of my brain with the kind of savvy network that RWJ has. And we're cooking up a couple projects. One of them is on data visualization and trying to kind of take some of this, the really amazing bounty of smart designers and graphic artists that are working in the field of statistics, and tapping them to create some powerful and validated statistical visualizations. So one of the hardest things that exists in healthcare is just explaining information to people in a way that makes sense. And that's kind of the baseline from which every other healthcare decision often starts. and we're not very good at knowing what people respond to or what works for people. And so we're just going to kind of say, time out, let's actually measure this. Let's test this idea of presenting statistics to people. How do we do it in a way that makes sense to them? So and it's the kind of question that's been kicking around the back of my head for years, but now with RWJ, we're actually able to bring these interesting partners together and to actually test it, and we'll come out with a report, hopefully maybe by the end of the year, beginning of next year. So one of the things that actually got me started thinking about this was this lab design project that we did at Wired a couple of years ago. It was an idea that I had. It was one of those examples of having an idea, but nobody was doing what was kicking around in my head. And so we just decided to do it at Wired, which was to redesign. It was kind of an execution or a test case in what do you do with what I call lazy data that exists in the healthcare system, but nobody's acting on it. Nobody's doing anything with it. So this lazy data, how do you make it active? How do you make it full of life and basically discern the value that it has in there? So we redesigned lab test values and did cholesterol and prostate PSA scores and things like that, and did a very compelling data presentation, but also connected it with actions, what people should do based on that data. And it was fun for me to do, but it was even more gratifying to see the response it got. I did a TED Med talk that was picked up by TED. It got nominated for a National Magazine Award, which was nice, and it sparked a lot of enthusiasm. So that I had people wanting to start up companies, and some people asked permission, some people didn't ask permission to use it, and it got me thinking about kind of what is possible and what I might do. And so that kind of, in some ways, led to me sitting here now.
Well, I can't wait to see some of this. I actually do believe that I saw your TED Med talk, or at least I have seen this lab design that you did. And,
it's very famous.
Right. And it is very famous. And I'm a physician, so I grew up with seeing lab reports that were pretty boring. And by the way, in the beginning, didn't matter if they were boring because I was never going to show them to you anyway. Right? So now we're in a different phase where it really is important. This whole movement, this whole big data movement, and this meeting and really everything that I feel that's going on in healthcare now is bringing the patient back into the center where they should have been all along.
So that's a great point, because what we were doing was trying to create value for the patient. But we also did some questions, some surveys of physicians, and it turned out that when a physician did want to show that lab test value to the patients, they would spend about 15 minutes marking it up, circling values, writing marginal text to explain what meant or what this meant. And so we realized that it would save a physician 15, 20 minutes, half an hour of just kind of this rather rote, boring annotation. And if we could save the physician that time and then move and create something that is of value to the patient, then you're advancing the dialogue between the patient and the physician. So we were thinking of it as a patient-centered tool, but one that would also have great benefits for the physician. And that, to me, is a principle that I think still is valid. That product, regardless or notwithstanding, I think that is really the sweet spot for innovation and data in healthcare right now, is creating tools that are patient-centric but are also valuable and valid for the physician. So that's what I'm interested in broadly.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And it's really interesting because physicians did have conversations with patients about that. But the one thing that we learn, particularly if you're having this conversation when someone is in the hospital, is that they can't take it in. And so that 15 minutes that you spent and all those circles and the notes in the margin didn't really matter because the person couldn't really think about it until they got home. And then they got home and they had, this thing they couldn't do anything with. So having a tool like what you're describing, or what it sounds like to me, the development of a lot of tools that can really help people have the information, go home, really understand it themselves, show it to their family members, show it to their friends, and really tell the story is terrific. And
do you still practice?
I don't.
What was your specialty?
I was an emergency physician.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So every minute counts there.
Every minute counts, right.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Do you have any last words you'd like to say?
No, this was great. Thank you for having me here.
So this is Pat Salber at Health Datapalooza in our nation's capital on behalf of Health Innovation TV. Thank you very much, Thomas, and best of luck with your new career.
Thank you very much.